the easiest place to start your digital nomad journey. You'll see from this channel that my content is basically split into two categories. Firstly, I talk all things online business, how you make money online, market yourself, and generate more leads so you can ultimately get more money. And secondly, I talk travel content. I share with you my vlogs and updates of where I'm traveling and give tips on how you can do it too. This is because both of these things are hugely important to me. And if I didn't run an online business, I never would have been able to travel. I never even planned to travel. So for those of you who are curious, I want to make sure that you know how so that you can open your eyes and potentially start to do the same. So let's get into it. Where is the easiest place to start your digital nomad journey? Unfortunately, I don't have a particular location I can give you because it's going to depend on a couple of factors about your business, about where you're starting your digital nomad journey from, where your customers are, and ultimately what you're after. So although I can't give you a flat out answer, what I can do is give you the different things that you need to consider to decide if a location is the right place for you to go. Now, before I get into this list, I want to say I've ordered them basically of importance that I think that you should consider. But the order for you might be completely different. Your priorities, the things that you're concentrating on might be different depending on your business, depending on you personally. For example, I'm never going to be looking for a place that has like a really hot club scene or has like great nightlife. I'm not a big drinker. If I am, it's a glass of red wine, not exactly club material. For you, number one, probably the biggest one, time zone differences. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know I started my digital nomad journey in Bali, which is about a 7 or 8 hour difference from my hometown in South Wales, depending on the time of year anyway. And although I had a fabulous time and we made it work and everything was fine, it did make things kind of difficult for me at times. Being someone who'd always been at home, all of a sudden now I was unavailable at certain times that my clients maybe wanted to meet me. I also typically, while I was in the UK, did all my meetings in an afternoon. I did a morning of work, an afternoon of my calls, and the afternoon in UK time was like the middle of the night in Bali. So there were some adjustments that I had to consider for myself, for my clients, and that you probably need to think about too. What I'd recommend is sticking to somewhere within the sort of 4 or 5 hour time difference from where you're starting off your travels, or maybe where your customers are based. I'm by no means saying don't go places that are further away, but as a first location as a digital nomad, when you're still learning and trying to figure out how to balance travel and work, it's probably not the best place to start. There are some really good maps out there that can show you the different time zone maps and where comes under the category, so you can have a look and figure out where the zone is for you. The second thing to consider is whether it has a nomad or expat community already. If you're traveling, you're going to have to deal with different cultures, foods, languages, currencies. Everything about your life is going to be different. So going somewhere that has a nomad or expat community already will mean that you're more likely to find people that will make the process just a little bit easier. For example, more people are going to be likely to speak English. There's going to be more chance of having some recognizable foods that you want to eat. And it'll probably be easier to meet other people who are doing something similar to you. So if it has this nomad or expat community, people have gone down this path and can kind of guide you. There'll usually be things like Facebook group where you can ask questions and figure out some of the things that you're maybe stumbling upon. And it can be really simple stuff like what are the safe currency converters or which is the best ATM to use. If you're going somewhere that isn't often traveled, then that kind of information gets much harder to get a hold of. And if making friends is important to you, again, having a location that has either nomads or expats, people who are from a different location living there, is going to be easier. For example, right now I'm in Greece on a little island called Corfu, and everyone who's here is either local or tourists. And tourists as in they're here for like a week. So there's no real nomad or expat community here that I've come across anyway. Okay, third thing to consider is going to be cost of living. Being a digital nomad can be either really cost efficient or really bloody expensive, depending on where you go and how you plan your time. We all know the concept of traveling itself, kind of flying, getting buses, trains to wherever you need to go, is going to take a bit of a hit to your bank account. But if you're going to places that are maybe less common, if you're going to places that have a really good cost of living, then a lot of that travel can be cheaper. And when you get there, the living costs are going to be obviously significantly cheaper. I'm from the UK. There is quite literally a cost of living crisis where I'm from right now. So it is one of the most expensive places that you could possibly live. Where I'm going are lots of different smaller countries that I'd never been to before around the Balkans, the Mediterranean, maybe Southeast Asia in the future. And the cost of living there compared to where I'm from is completely different. So my budget can lower. The amount that I'm able to save is bigger, and there are so many benefits to that for me. For a bit of context, myself and my boyfriend are spending about £1,300 a month, all in food, travel, accommodation. But when we were renting a house and staying at home, just for paying the bills and making sure we're eating, not including any kind of nights out or activities, we were also spending about £1,400 per month. And since we've moved out, the bills have actually gone up, so it would probably be higher. So use things like cost of living calculators to figure out what the average cost of living is. And there's also a Nomad list, which has a really good outline of how much it costs for a local, an expat, and a nomad. And it really considers the different budget outlines. And honestly, it usually turns out to be around where we're at. And I've said it before, the worst nightmare would be being stuck across the other side of the world with no money. So making sure that your cost of living is in line is going to be a big thing to consider. Number 4 is going to be all your personal preferences. Do you want to be in the countryside, by a beach, in a city? What do you want from the place that you're traveling? If you're going to somewhere just because it's a nomad hotspot, you might not enjoy it. For example, when we went to Bali, we spent about a month in Canggu, and it was actually the place that I rated the least, because a lot of the focus of the people who were living there was the nightlife, the beach clubs, and that sort of thing was not up my alley. So I ended up going to a location and being tied into having rented for a month, and I knew it wasn't for me, and I was ready to go on to the next place. Learn from my mistakes and really take into consideration, what is your personal preference? How do you like to live your life? What would the ideal be when you're selecting where you want to go? And finally, point number 5 is the availability of co-working spaces. I worked from home for years before I started traveling. I never had the want or need to attend a co-working space. Maybe once in a blue moon, I would go and work out of a cafe or drive up to Cardiff and work from a co-working space, but it was pretty unlikely. Most of the time, I preferred and enjoyed to work from my house. When you're traveling, your spaces are going to be smaller, or at least typically your spaces are going to be smaller. For the entire time that we were in Bali, we didn't have an apartment that even had like a kitchen or living room space. So it was almost like hotel bedrooms that you were staying in. They were lovely, but they didn't have enough room to kind of feel like you were mixing up. And then it became really dreary and dull to be sat in the same room, staring at the same four walls for the entire time. Having a co-working space or cafes that we could work at that had really good Wi-Fi meant that I was able to get out of the house, just feeling like I was getting a different scenery and actually making the most of being somewhere like Bali or like Bulgaria. If you're just sat in your room the whole time, it starts to become a little bit dull. Honestly, if you're thinking about going somewhere and it's being listed on something like Nomad list, it is potential as being a digital nomad spot. It probably has co-working spaces. But aside from that, go on Google Maps, search cafes that have free Wi-Fi and look at the location that you're thinking of and see how many are there. Search co-working spaces. If there's a fair few, you know you'll be fine. So there's something that I mentioned a couple of times through this, and that is a website called Nomad List, which is a really good tool to be able to narrow down and figure out where to go when you're traveling. There are some really good filters like the temperature, the amount of money that you want to spend. You can even break it down to, I want to travel Europe, Southeast Asia, so on and so forth. And honestly, this has become a bit of a shopping list for me to go on and search and look at some of the key cities that have a good digital nomad presence and also are budget friendly and kind of match those filters that I'm looking for. You can also then click on each location and look through and see a few features, like which neighborhoods are prominent that you could potentially look to stay in, what other nomads who have been there think of the place, even down to how the country works with race relations, what their views are on LGBT, so that you know whether it's somewhere that kind of either that your values equate to, or if you are somebody in either of those communities, that it's going to be safe. It is a paid for website, but there's a free version. I've never paid for it, and I love the free version to just go and search and take a look. And a little hack, There is a limit to how many times you can search, but if you put your phone on private mode, you can kind of close the tab and restart it. Or you can disconnect from Wi-Fi to 4G and it gives you a different IP address and it works again. But in terms of some inspiration for you, if you're from the UK, I would say travel in Europe is going to be a great place to start. Portugal has become known as a brilliant hotspot for digital nomads, and it's actually the same time zone as the UK. I myself am traveling through the Balkans and Mediterranean, which are super cheap and really interesting because the culture is a little different to places like Spain, France, where I've been before as a kid. So you get that feeling of being away from home, away from something that you're familiar with. If you're in the US, places like Costa Rica and Mexico have a huge community of digital nomads and would be a really good place to start because you're staying close to home. And of course, there's your typical spots like Thailand, Bali, even Australia. If time zone isn't an issue for you, maybe you're somebody who sells courses or is in e-commerce, so you don't have to worry about client time, then I would say Southeast Asia is probably going to be brilliant. Everywhere there is beautiful. But for now, good luck planning. Leave in the comments below where you think your next nomad destination is going to be. I'm always on the lookout for inspiration, so I would love to hear where you're all planning on going. And if you want to see more of my travel adventures, I'm going to pop a playlist up on the screen that has all of our travel vlogs from Bali to Bulgaria, and even now moving forward to Greece and Albania, so you can live vicariously through me while you're getting started.